Hi folks, welcome to another episode of Ask a Retired Pro. This is the updated free YouTube edition from my Ask a Pro book. Today we're going to answer, what do pros do with their bike stuff at the end of the year, and what do I do with my stuff, and can you have it? This episode is brought to you by Beam Dream. Beam is a drink mix filled with sleep-promoting ingredients. Nala, please don't. Thank you, Nala. You can mix it with water. I like to use milk. Kind of picture it like an evening hot chocolate drink. It's got melatonin, magnesium, L-theanine, clinically shown to help you fall asleep and sleep longer, backed up by my Whoop data. In a clinical study, 93% of the participants reported better night's sleep. It's also delicious. My favorite is the cinnamon cocoa flavor. There's no added sugar in that, by the way. One of my New Year's resolutions was to reduce caffeine. Caffeine increases anxiety, so I was hoping to knock that down a little bit to reduce the caffeine. I don't have as much coffee in the mornings. Part of what helps me do that is I get a better night's sleep. Beam, I'm not groggy. I sleep better. I don't need that kind of jolt when I wake up. Saves money. That Starbucks isn't cheap every day. And Phil sent me is good for up to 35% off. Good sleep is critical to good recovery. That's all about staying consistent. Give it a try. Cheers. My life goal, everyone's life goal, should be to sleep like Nala. You don't even need it. Hey Phil, what do pros do with their bike stuff at the end of the year? Are they allowed to keep it? Do they sell it? Do you ever lose something you were supposed to give back? This is a complicated question because it's evolved a lot over the years. But the short answer is yes, I did steal a lot of stuff. Now please let me explain how I rationalize that. Now when I was coming up racing as an amateur, obviously those teams don't pay much of a salary or any salary at all. So a lot of the compensation is in free product. So in 2008, I was 23 and I had two offers. One was from a pro team that was $5,000, but I don't get to keep my two bikes. And one was from an amateur team that was $2,000 salary. That's for the year, by the way. But I could have 4 bikes and I can keep them. We'd also get hookups from a lot of our sponsors and like really good pricing, like better than a bike shop would get. Now it's frowned upon to buy something new as a hookup and then immediately sell it, but I'd buy everything I could, use it all once or twice, use it naturally as I would in a race, and then have no shame about selling it on eBay at the end of the year. I was still in college then, so at the end of that year, I just sat in a giant lecture hall class at University of Florida. I sat in the very back, and I made all of my rent money for the next year selling my used bikes and everything I got my hands on that season. Then when I went pro, and we're talking small continental teams, the salary wasn't much different. We're talking $2,000 the first year, $12,000, $15,000. That was what I had to live on. You get a crappy salary, prize money, whatever hustle businesses you have on the side, and then a bunch of brand new stuff at the end of the year that you can sell, and that's sort of how you eke by. The first year that a team paid me a living wage was Bissell Pro Cycling, and they were very strict. They had Pinarello as a sponsor and the fancy campy stuff. Those are super expensive bikes. They're very strict. They're like, yeah, you cannot lose your bike at the end of the season. We're getting all those back. And that was how the team manager paid himself. My salary was $45,000 that year. I didn't fight him whatsoever on it. That was a fair deal. That's sort of how it goes in the World Tour as well. You've got a bunch of bikes with your name on the sticker, but the team owns that property. Of course, there are exceptions. I think it's the mechanics who are in charge of inventory. When I was on Garmin Sharp at the end of that year, I did have a few Cervelos still in my closet. There was a merger going on. They were going to be on different bikes. I was being publicly humiliated. I was also, of course, on World Tour minimum that year and getting fired. So they asked me to send the bikes back a couple times. I hit delete on those emails. I never heard from them again. If they'd pushed a little harder or threatened to sue me, I would have sent it back, but those things got sold. At that level, I think the teams ask for like 300 frames a year from these sponsors. It's really more than they're going to need. And at the end of the season, it's a breach of contract for teams to sell it. So back then, like half of Girona had Garmin Sharp kits that were just sold out of the back of the service course. You'd see kids riding bikes to elementary school on Cervelos. I think they had enough inventory sitting around. They weren't super stressed about mine. And if a pro ever tries to sell you their training bike, that's like buying a used cop car. The specs are good, maybe they kept it clean, but that thing has been through some shit. You also asked about clothes. Teams want you to look super fresh during the season. Like at a Grand Tour, you'll get a new jersey every day. The bus has a drawer of new socks and cycling caps if you want to sign one for a fan. Maybe if you want to just dress like a San Francisco barista. And then contractually, you cannot wear any of that the next year after January 1st. You got a whole new batch of stuff. So every year I would save one jersey to put on the wall, and then the rest eBay, give it away, sign it, and give it to bike shops, stuff like that. Breach of sponsor contract, maybe, but how I pay the bills, and honestly, like, I just hate waste. These days, the sponsor relationships are all mine. They're not like via a third-party team, so I'm more careful. As far as bikes, this is gonna sound obnoxious, but one of the big revelations of my retirement is that a bicycle can last longer than a year. Like you hear about carbon dying. Maybe that happened back in the day. I get new bikes every year. I have no idea. But these days, like the Factor 02 that I got in 2019, did all my training on, like it's still fine. Now, of course, the question I think you're really asking when you ask what do pros do with their old stuff is you're saying, can I have your old stuff? Every time I kind of announce a new sponsor, I get DMs from a bunch of vultures like, hey, can I have your old shoes? I'll go to a junior mountain mountain bike race or cross race and give away a bunch of socks and gloves. My old jerseys, I sign those and I sell them on the website, Benefits to Sierra Club. But some stuff, eventually it's toast and you just gotta let it go. You don't want my used bib shorts. That stuff goes in the attic. Someday every pro turns into the guy who's on 9 different teams from a decade of racing. I can't wait. Thank you for watching. Leave a comment if you have a question for a retired pro. See you next time.